I believe we're live, and I do not know if my connection is going to last, but Yanni and Tasty, you have good connections right now. So that's all that matters. And we're here to talk about week 5 reactions. There's a lot to react to, and then we'll take a look at the week 6 openers here as they come out, since they'll be coming out hot and heavy, and we'll try to pick off some lines. But interesting day, and Tasty, the Packers are awful.
I love it so much. It was so much fun watching that game. I mean, I still expect at some point they're just going to turn it on or something. But honestly, they don't look very good. Overall, it wasn't fluky today, I wouldn't say. In fact, if the Jets had been able to get any offense going earlier, it could have gotten out of hand early because they were bad on offense early. So, yeah, pretty sweet.
Pretty sweet. Probably not sweet for anybody that had the Packers in a tease. Yanni, did you have the Packers in any teasers? I didn't have anything actually in that game somehow.
No, I actually ended up taking the Jets late. I took them in a couple contests and late. Shout out if you guys aren't following Sportfolio Kings, follow them on Twitter. They do a lot of great stuff, and they actually put something out yesterday, and it really broke down that Jets and Packers matchup, and they were all over the Jets. And after seeing what they came up with, it was a no-brainer. I was like, wow, I didn't even realize, there were certain things that they pointed out regarding the inefficiencies of Aaron Rodgers and the Packers passing game, obviously. But then some of the things with like the Jets defensive line, whatever. Anyways, long story short, those guys nailed it. I think we just, after seeing that, that's all I needed to know to basically say this Packers team, you can throw some dirt on them. They're dead. They're dead.
Yeah, they're what? They're 3-3 now, and they're just looking terrible as they're doing it. 3-3 in a division that is probably not that good either, but they just look like they can't do anything offensively. This defense, guys, is a defense that I'm pretty sure that I thought would be a top 10 defense. They're probably a bottom 10 defense right now. And yeah, they can get right, but Rodgers just kind of looks washed. And for me, it's a team that I'm not betting on. Like I literally just cannot bet on the Packers. Fading the Packers, I guess you could. That time might have come and gone, but congrats to anybody that took the Giants and the Jets money lines in the past 2 weeks, because those were big numbers.
Listen, I think as long as the Packers have Aaron Rodgers, especially in Lambeau, they're going to be overvalued still. So I think you could still fade this team moving forward. People are going to see Rodgers and say, hey, this team's going to get it going. It's Aaron Rodgers. I think this team is what it is. I think what we saw today is who they are. So I think they're a fade for sure until the books and the public recognize that it doesn't matter if they have Aaron Rodgers. This team's just not very good.
They're not. Pretty good heads up call by you today, fading them and taking the Jets. Tasty, high level takeaways from today. I know that there's a lot of games that went in our direction in terms of bets, some that didn't. Bengals got home, right? So they look to be on track, and they're 3-3 now, so not bad. But some high level takeaways from you, Tasty.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like there was a decent amount of interesting stuff. Watching that Jaguars and Colts game, I was watching that on one TV and Red Zone on another. I'll just say in that one, it ended up being an exciting game, but I sort of was not impressed by either of them very much. I don't know what to do with that division. We've talked about burying the Colts for a while now, and that game, I think the biggest thing for me was watching their defense and the huge running plays they were giving up. I mean, 3, 4, 5 running plays of probably 35, 40 plus yards. If you're going to do that as a defense against a good team, you're going to get buried. But then Jacksonville, even with those explosive plays, couldn't do very much with them. And so I don't know. That was just the first one that came to mind because I spent the most time watching it.
Really confusing teams here. And Yanni, I'd like to get your take on this one also. But Jaguars, 7.4 yards per rush on the ground, put up 27 points. All of a sudden, they're 2-4. They were looking like a team that was going to be not a contender, but in the mix. Now they're 2-4. The Colts all of a sudden find themselves above 500 at 3-2-1, putting up a 34 spot, and their offense looked better. It's tough to pin down these Colts, Yanni.
Yeah, we've talked a lot about them, I feel like, and
we have.
But I think they kind of merit some discussion just because they are a little bit of an enigma. I mean, it's, you try to figure out who this team is, And I think to me, it comes down to who are the Jaguars here. I mean, what did the Colts really do here? Matt Ryan looked really good today. Is that because he's starting to figure this offense out? He's getting it in sync with his receivers, or was maybe that the Jaguars defense? I don't know. And then on the flip side of the ball, like you said, that's got to be concerning. And I understand that Darius Leonard has not been in that lineup there, which obviously if he's in there, you hope that some of those long running plays don't happen. But even with him out, there's no excuse. I mean, they were getting torched on those running plays. And I just, to Casey's point there, yeah, I don't see how. I don't know. That Colts defense to me is definitely a head scratcher. I don't know. I don't get it. I feel like they should be better, but I don't know if it's a scheme, a discipline thing. Maybe the talent just isn't as good as I thought. I don't know.
Yeah, and technically, it's only week 6 here, and we have some time to let this play out. I mean, at this point, like if the Colts get it together and they had 34 points today, they could still be a team that only loses 5-6 games. They technically only have 2 losses. So like this is a team that will be in contention, 1, because it's a terrible division, but 2, it's like you can't write this team off yet. 2 losses. I think if you would ask any Colts fan right now, given what they went through in weeks 1 to 5, you take that. Another game that shocked me, Ravens lost to the Giants. Take a look at the box score and make of it what you will, guys, but Ravens outperformed the Giants across the board. Brian Daboll, tasty, coach of the year. He's getting closer and closer. All of a sudden, the Giants are 5-1. I don't regard them as a 5-1 caliber team, but that's really interesting. And I did not win my Ravens bet.
Yeah, man. Today, I will say, today was the first week where I feel like it's starting to change my mind a little bit. And the thing that's changing my mind is not the talent level. Like, I still think absolutely middling. They've got Daniel Jones, all this stuff. I'm going to give a lot of it to Brian Daboll. Like, that team is playing with an edge. I think they're believing in themselves. I just felt like you could feel the energy from that team just watching the game. And teams like that can be dangerous.
Totally agree. And Yanni, I'd like to get your take here too, but sometimes a team that we write off in the early season, all of a sudden they've won 5 of 6. They start to believe in themselves. They know that they have a little bit of talent, and sometimes the sum is greater than the parts. And that might be what we're seeing with an awesome head coach, which I know you know him damn well from his years at the Bills. But Yanni, do we start taking this Giants team seriously in the NFC and the NFC East?
Yes and no. I mean, they're a quality football team and obviously I think better than probably anybody expected up to this point. I still am not completely sold on them. Now, they're building it right. They're building through their offensive line. They're trying to build through their defensive line. So I think they're doing the right things. But I mean, you got to look, like you said, when you look deeper into this here, Baltimore gave them this game. I mean, Baltimore had no business losing this game. And honestly, they really probably had no business not covering this game. And yes, I'm salty because I had a Baltimore ticket, but but with that being said, though, Baltimore, to me, is more of the story here. I think the Giants, throughout the course of the season, they're going to find a way to be a wild card team. They'll make some plays. Obviously, they can do some things. But to me, Baltimore is a story here because they're really all of a sudden starting to look like some of those Chargers teams that we saw over the years, that it's like they're good. They should have won, yet somehow they're losing game after game after game. And look, it's a long season. You expect that to happen once in a while where it's like, oh, they gave that one away. But this is becoming a pattern now where it's like, hey, should have beat the Dolphins. Hey, should have beat who am I forgetting earlier? Whatever, it doesn't matter. There was another one before the Dolphins there. And then this game with the Giants should have won this. So it's like at some point it becomes a pattern and you got to start saying, is this who this team is? And not to be repetitive because I mentioned that earlier, but I don't know. Is that a John Harbaugh thing? What is that? I mean, Lamar Jackson played a good game. Keep in mind, he was without his number 1 wide receiver, played a good game until 8-10 minutes left in the fourth quarter and the wheels fell off. It's like, what is going on to where he can play well, the team can play well for 3.5 quarters. And then all of a sudden it's like they just lose their mind and they can't get it done.
Yeah, it just happens time and time again. They're at 3-3 now, tied with the Bengals. All of a sudden, Cincy fans are like, okay, it's 3-3. I know that we lost to the Ravens technically last week. We still have a game against them. This is wide open. The Ravens, I mean, coming into this week we all consider to be a team that we think that we could trust in that like top 5 to 8 team range. I still think that they could be a top 5 to 8 team, but they're not a team that I can trust right now. We'll see what their spreads are for next week as the spreads are coming out. They have the Browns, I believe, next week, which is another game you can spend a little bit of time on. I didn't watch too much of it. Patriots won by, what was it, 23 points. Stevenson, congrats to anybody who had him in DFS. He had an awesome day. The Browns, Yanni, the Browns are just not doing it for us, the fans. I didn't have anything on them, so I shouldn't say us, but the Browns are just being the Browns, and we call them the clowns for a reason.
Yeah, we talked about this game briefly, and this was a pass for me. I was very curious, though, to see what we saw in this game, because I think going into it, you could have made the case either way and saying, I like Cleveland because, or I like New England because. But I think we learned a lot today about who Cleveland is. And to your point, they're kind of the same old Browns. And, the reality is they're probably maybe not going to be out of it when Deshaun Watson gets back, but it's trending in that direction. And, you kind of look at that and say, okay, Brissett hadn't played badly. They're at home. They're at home against a team starting Bailey Zappi. You've got to be able to find a way to win that game when you have guys like Nick Chubb and a good offensive line and Amari Cooper and Myles Garrett and some of those guys that they have. And not only did they not get it done, they were kind of beat up and embarrassed in the second half. It was kind of a close game early, but that second half, it was all New England.
It was all Pats, 4 for 15 on third down. Tasty, the Browns, 4 of 15 on third down, and they gave up 6.1 yards per play against the Pats. Do you have any thoughts on that game? Or if not, let's go to a game that you'd like to talk about, Tasty.
I mean, I did think it was interesting just because I feel like for me, the headline kind of is on the other side too of what do I make of the Patriots? I mean, I know the Browns aren't good, but I did not expect the Patriots to come into Cleveland and just blow them out like that.
Smash them on the road.
Like,
yeah.
Coaching, solid play. I mean, is this a team that we have to pay a little bit of attention? I mean, I'd totally dismissed them, to be honest. And now it's starting to look like, in some ways, I feel similar to the Giants. I still don't think it's a team that's at the top of the league or anything, but it's just a team that you probably need to show up against or you're going to lose, is the way it feels.
Yeah, they're just a team that you need to come correct, and you don't always need to play your A game, but you need to come correct, or that they're going to beat you. They're currently, it's a little bit early to take a look at all of the playoff standings, but currently the Colts would be your 7 seed at 3-2-1, and that there's a slew of 3-3 teams, including the Bengals, the Dolphins, the Patriots. The Ravens are at 3-3 right now, find themselves as the 4 seed because they have the head-to-head. Yanni, your Bills currently holding that 1 seed at 5-1, and a big win against Kansas City to, I'm not going to say secure anything, but that's a step in the right direction for home field advantage, Yanni, and a big win for all of us who had Bills because you kindly talked us through it and we all jumped on the Bills.
Well, it wasn't easy, but I mean, I think the game went pretty close to what we thought. The only thing to me that was a little bit, not to plan was early in the game, the Bills could not get consistent pressure on Patrick Mahomes. And obviously that was causing problems. Ironically, in the fourth quarter, when they needed to, they did. So even though they weren't really able to do that for the majority of the game, it kind of did ultimately end up being the difference in that game. I think some people, we may have said, that was a little lower scoring, but you got to remember there were a couple early red zone turnovers for both teams in that game. A couple stops on fourth down for both teams in that game. So, I mean, there could have been more points in that game, but I think the game did go to script, at least for the most part of what we thought. And yes, fortunately, we were able to cash those tickets there. And obviously, I'm elated about that because, like you said, I think that gives them kind of that inside track on home field advantage. And the Chiefs actually have a pretty tough schedule the next handful of weeks as well. They don't have a lot of layups in there either. So, I think I do think, Tony Romo mentioned that those teams are probably on a collision course to see each other again in the playoffs, and they most likely are. But I think that'll be interesting to see. Does Kansas City, do they bounce back from this, or does it give a team like maybe the Chargers or, somebody an opportunity to slip in? We'll see.
Will be very telling in the NFC West competitive division. The Bills, Tasty, looks like that they're sitting pretty with that 1 seed. Just got to keep keep churning, but it looks like that they're on a path for 13, 14 wins. I think the Chiefs will end up in that 12-5 range. And I think we had said it on a podcast in the previous 2 to 3 weeks is that the Chiefs we know are going to be there in the end. They're going to drop some games and look ugly. They'll look really good some weeks. They'll probably have a few head scratchers. I'm not going to call this a head scratcher at all. I'm sure that they would like to have a few of those plays back in the turnovers, but 12-5 sounds about right. They'll probably end up with your 2 seed. Any other takeaways from you for Chiefs Bills?
No, nothing else from me. Honestly, I think the stuff you guys said right on. Defer to Yanni on the Bills anyway, but definitely agree about the schedule though. I think this sets up the Bills great to be the 1 seed now because the Chiefs do have the harder schedule.
We should definitely do a schedule breakdown podcast. Just pick top 10 teams, just take a look at their schedule because it is that time period of taking a look at the schedules and saying, can we pick off some valuable odds and over under win totals, maybe to win the division, even conference? I think it's that time of year where you try to take a look at what you have. I still don't know what we have from half these teams, Tampa included, Green Bay included. The Colts are warming up.
I was going to ask you about Tampa. What you think?
Tampa, Tasty, take it away. Tampa is unbelievable.
I want to hear from you guys, man. I don't know what the hell to do with that team.
Dude, I don't know what to do with Tampa right now because I can't confidently put them in a teaser. They blew up more teasers again today. I can't confidently lay points with them. Tom Brady, he looked okay last week. It just looks like they're trudging through mud at times. And that Steelers defense, it's not the Steelers defense from 5-7 years ago. I mean, this is a team that could be 0-5 as they came in today, and they got it done. Yanni, Tampa's pissing me off.
Well, you and me both, because I had them in a teaser as well, even though I swore I wasn't going to do that. I did it, and it burned me.
I know. It's got to hit eventually, right?
But right. When you looked at this game, I'm sorry, there is no reason that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers should not have won this game. And I don't know. I didn't obviously get to see a lot of it. I saw bits and pieces on Red Zone. I'm curious to go back and kind of watch the full game to see what all happened there. But here's what I did see. And, they did show one thing on Red Zone, and that was Tom Brady obviously chewing out his offensive line early in the game. Early in the game, I think he had every right to do that. We're watching this Pittsburgh team playing without TJ Watt, and they are dominating that line of scrimmage there, which, that makes no sense to me. And if you're breaking that down and you're looking at Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, who got back on the field, and you're seeing that they're playing against practice squad corners, all you have to do is give Brady a couple seconds there, and they're gonna win those. But they couldn't. And the reason they couldn't is Brady was constantly under pressure, constantly, moving off the spot, and he couldn't overcome that. And then on the defensive side, Tampa had, and I'm not going to put this on their defense. Their defense played okay, whatever, but they had a couple opportunities late in the game where all they had to do was make a stop. And I say all you have to do is make a stop, easier said than done. But you're playing against Kenny Pickett. You're playing against Mitch Trubisky. You're playing against guys like Chase Claypool, who have done nothing this year, and they're not able to get off the field. So, you kind of look at that and say, okay, they couldn't make the big plays when they need them. And you look and you say, Brady, Evans, Godwin, all these big names and Pro Bowlers and whatever, but it always comes back to the offensive line. And unless they can get that unit playing better, maybe it'll continue to be a struggle. And I think the other thing, the last point I'll make is, where is Julio Jones? When is he going to be able to contribute to this team? Or is he just not going to be it? Yeah. I mean, should he just hang it up at this point? Because, to me, he was kind of the X factor. You have Evans, you have Godwin. Julio Jones gets single coverage. If he has anything left in the tank, whatever, but he's been on the field, once this year? Twice? Once?
Yeah, he was on the field in week 1, and he looked good. He was stretching the field. Did he come into week 2, Tasty? I'm trying to think back, but 1.5 games tops.
For sure. I thought he had gotten into 2 games, but
maybe 2.
I think he went out in week 2, but he hasn't been there since. And it's like, is he going to come back? Should he just hang it up? Tampa, 4.5 yards per play today, only 304 yards, 4 for 14 on third down against the Steelers defense that you can score points on. The Bills could, and granted, the Bills can score on anybody, but I mean, you got to be able to do more than that. Steelers 7 for 15 on third down. Pickett got hurt. Is that a concussion he had, guys? I think I saw that correctly.
Yeah.
So. he might be out for a week or two, because it seems like the NFL is trying to get pretty on point with their concussion protocols, on point, quote unquote. But we'll see what happens with that. So he might be back to Mitch, who did enough and 9 for 12 scrambling around. I think I talked too much about that game already, but again, the Steelers, a team that I don't really want to back. I'll gladly fade them, but fading them today did not work. Anything else that I'm missing before we start touching on these week 6 openers, which are popping up and lighting up the screen?
I do think there's one other thing we need to. Oh, sorry, Tasty.
I was just going to say one other thing about that game real quick that I just say, this goes back to the line. But remember when Leonard Fournette was like the hot shit for season long, like for fantasy football?
Yeah.
And now he's getting 3 yards to carry, and like they can't run the ball at all. So that's another thing. Like they can't run the ball right now.
Well, in fairness, Fournette was about the only guy on the offense that did anything today. So, but no, I think the one thing that we didn't touch on, and we don't have to spend any time on it, but at some point we have to recognize that the Atlanta Falcons are not only a pretty decent football team, but from a betting perspective, they're a covering machine. So I think we need to at least look at that and start saying, are the books going to adjust to that? At least I'm looking at early spreads for next week, and at least early on, it doesn't look like it.
Nope. I was on Atlanta today, actually. So,
really, I'm really glad that you mentioned that, Tasty. I didn't hit my first half Niners.
I know.
I knew that was.
Hey, they almost came back and got it done, man.
Nothing. They almost came back. Yeah, and they tied it up at 14. But I knew, guys, when that line was going down from 5.5, and a couple books even had. It was 4, but a couple books even had 3.5. And I saw, it was like, okay, there's sharp money coming in on the Falcons. Bosa's out. And I know that the Niners stayed out east and they stay at the Greenbrier, I think, and that's worked out well for them in recent years. They try to have 2 road games in a row here out east. Didn't work out. And it's like, Yanni, to your point, this Falcons team had an over-under win total of 4.5. They might hit that before this month is out.
Yeah, and I mean,
it's crazy.
And look, I know the 49ers defense was banged up, and I get that, but I'm looking ahead and kind of segueing into next week.
Yeah,
right now you can still get 6.5 with the Falcons plus 6.5 going into Cincinnati. Cincinnati barely won that game today. Chase came alive in the second half, but they barely won that game against a JV Saints team on both sides of the ball, certainly on the offensive side of the ball. So I'm looking at that and saying, should the Bengals really be laying 6.5 points to this Falcons team that's covered the spread every single week? I don't know. I mean, maybe it's a game where maybe the Bengals got their offense going and they'll put up 40 points like we think they can, but that just seems like too much for me early on. I have a feeling that number is going to come down. I would be fairly surprised if it doesn't.
Perfect segue. Let's start touching on those lines. The Bengals were one of the games that I pinned today. Yanni, appreciate the team total over 22.5. Look, I rode that, especially after I saw that the Saints had some more players out, which they're a team that's just riddled with injuries. I hit that. I hit the over in the game that I bet as soon as lines came out last week. Tasty, you said that I got reverse CLV. That's probably not a term, but then I won because I hit the over 44.5. It went down to like 42.5 and I won. So I got that. But to Yanni's point here, 6.5, that might be a bet for me here, Tasty. I think 6.5 is too much against the Falcons right now. The over-under is at 46.
Yeah, I just bet it.
Okay, let's do it.
I mean, I was looking at it because I was looking over the lines before we jumped on here, and that was the one that stuck out to me. Partly, I think the Falcons are decent, and if they're going to keep covering, it's one of those things like I kind of want to ride it unless I have a good reason not to. And I'm with Yanni. Like, how many weeks am I going to say this could be the week the Bengals go off? This could be the week the Bengals go off, and then they don't do it. Like, their line still is not playing well. Their defensive line isn't playing all that well a lot of the snaps. Like, I just don't think I think the Bengals still have the talent and potential to be really good, but until they show it to us, I'm not sure why we would count on it.
I don't think I don't think you can lay almost a touchdown. I doubt this gets to 7. I think it would go the other way. I don't hate that over under either. I saw this earlier at 45. Looks like it's getting bet up now to 46. I like this over, to be honest. I think the Falcons will give up 21 to 28 points a game. They have a frisky offense. This game could easily be pretty high scoring. Check the weather. I'm usually on top of the weather. It's a week out. I had pretty busy weekend at Phillies games and everything. So I haven't done all my homework, as the Phillies are in the NLCS, guys. I'm pretty happy about that. So,
Congrats.
thank you. It should be a pretty interesting week as they play the Padres, but we'll have to get JJ's takes on what he thinks will happen in the MLB because he's our MLB whiz. But excited, yeah. First time in 12 years that we have the Phillies here in the NLCS. Hopefully I'll get to a game next weekend. That was probably the loudest event I've been to in quite some damn time. It was electric at that stadium yesterday. So looking at some other lines, you got the Titans laying 2 over under 42 against the Colts. Did you guys do anything with the Colts? To me, it's Colts or no bet.
I'm on the other side of the fence there. I actually
Titans.
bet 10. Yeah, I bet a -1 earlier in the week for next week.
Okay.
So, I've got them. I think that, and again, maybe I'll be wrong because maybe the Colts are finally figuring this thing out, at least offensively. But I think this is a tough road spot for them in that division. Probably going to be a close game, probably going to be a little bit of a grinded out type thing. But I think the Titans, I don't know. At home, I like them in this spot. I think that they'll get that win.
Tasty, did you do anything with them? I do like what we're seeing with the Titans so far, shockingly enough. I didn't expect that.
I'm still not sold on the Titans all the way, but I'm not sold on the Colts either. I was looking at this one, trying to figure out what I would want to do. I'm just not sure. I mean, I thought about the under even. I mean, it's a fairly low under, but I do think, but then like it scares me today to watch the way the Colts got gashed in the run game and know that Derrick Henry's on the other side. That kind of scares me for that. So at least for now, I feel like it's a stay away for me.
Yeah, I'm currently in stay away mode in this whole division. I'm trying to figure out what's what. I think I'm definitely moving the Jaguars down. The Colts are inching up, and the Titans, I had them as like a bottom 8 team. They're inching up and they're inching up. That don't have a lot of incredible wins. I think their last one was against Washington, which that's another game. That total of 41.5, 42 Packers Commanders. I'm leaning over. I know it's an under league right now, but I'm leaning over in that game because the Packers aren't showing me anything on the defensive side. I know that the Commanders struggle to score, but depending on the weather, if all checks out, I think that's a game that, like I say, guys, you can stumble into an over at 42. I think it's low.
Yeah.
Tasty, do you have any? Yeah, no. Yeah.
Go ahead, Yanni.
I was just going to say, I mean, the other thing that I think we're continuing to see, and we talked about this maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago, is with all of these lower scoring games, all of these unders, at what point does that kind of revert and we start seeing some more points? And it's still not really happening. I mean, obviously we had the Jags and Colts game today that put up some points, but you kind of look through the rest of the slate and in a lot of those kind of lower scoring games. I mean, just even again, we go back to the Bills and Chiefs even. I mean, 44 points, right? So I think that, I don't know. Like I've been trying to pick some spots with overs, and I missed on one today with that Seattle and Arizona game that never threatened over. I mean, granted, it was a field goal explosion in the first half, but you just start saying, is it an under league? I mean, these teams are playing 2 high safeties almost all the time now. And they're basically saying, go ahead, get 4 yards of play and, dink and dunk the ball up the field. And, we're seeing a lot of these 4, 5, 6, 7 minute drives, and we're just not seeing a lot of explosive plays routinely. So I don't know. You're right. 42 is a low number. Neither of those teams' defenses are very good. So I think if you're looking at just kind of a quick breakdown, you would look at that and say, yeah, the over makes sense. But I don't know. I'm almost getting a little bit gun shy at this point in the season on overs in general.
Yeah, especially as we continue to talk it through. It's like the Commanders, I mean, they've struggled to get to even 10 points in most of their games. I mean, I think they put up an 8 spot against the probably against the Eagles in week 3. I think that was like 8 points. They scored 12 against the Bears, who are not like world beaters, and they got the win home, but it's like, okay, nothing special. Tasty's, anything else jumping off the screen here in the week 6 slate as the lines are popping up?
Yeah, I'll say 2, and I'm wondering, but what I'm wondering is if I'm overvaluing teams now. So it's the 2 New York teams for me. So the Giants getting 3 points. Where did I lose that? With Jacksonville, and we've talked about how we don't really know what we're getting with Jacksonville. But again, Jacksonville does not feel like a really solid team to me, and the Giants just feel sort of solid right now. Maybe not world beaters, but solid. So to give me 3 points in that game, I kind of like that. And then the Jets going to Denver, getting 3.5. I mean, I think that Jets defense is solid, honestly. And Denver can't score. So we haven't seen them play this week yet. But if you're going to give me points in a game that is probably, it feels to me like it's either going to be close or the Jets maybe end up being able to win the game even, that feels like a good spot to get 3.5 points to me as well. But curious what you guys think about those.
I agree. I'm shopping for a Giants line right now at 3 because it's starting to move off the 2.5 here, Yanni, or from 2.5, or no, from 3 down to 2.5. 2 at some books also here, Yanni.
Yeah, it looks like on Unabated, it looks like so far the highest number of bets coming in are on the Giants. So I think people are feeling what Tasty's feeling there, which is, hey, this is a good team, maybe not playing a good team, and you take those points. I would say this, first of all, there's no way I'm betting on the Jags or the Broncos. So if I'm betting this game, I am taking the points. That being said, I don't know, just because I think with those teams coming off of, I'm going to call them big wins, and going on the road, maybe not an ideal spot. So I don't know if it's worth playing. I do think it probably in both cases, if you do want to play it, you do have to do it sooner rather than later, because those numbers will probably work against you if not. And I just got to say one thing. There's a guy, I just found him on YouTube. His name's Alex Collins, not the dude that used to be the running back for the Ravens and Seahawks.
Right. Yeah.
But he breaks down NFL film, and the guy's really sharp. So if you get a chance and you want to check him out on YouTube, but he did a breakdown of Russell Wilson. And it was like, you don't have to break down tape to know that Russell Wilson isn't playing very good football. We all know that. But when you see the tape, but when you see it, he breaks down just how bad it is. It's literally mind-boggling, and you wonder, how the heck was this guy a Pro Bowl quarterback? He literally, it's insane. So anyways, going back, the point of that story is, Tasty's right. If I'm playing that, I'm going to take the points, because I'm not trusting that Denver offense to put up enough points to really win. If you're getting more than a field goal, at this point, I guess look at it this way. Can Denver beat anyone by more than a field goal?
Honestly, you have to prove that you can get to 20 points first. And they haven't really gotten to 20 points. And then they got to 23 once against the Raiders indoors, and they stumbled into it. But Russ is missing throws. His vision looks off. I'm not sure what happened. I know that he got paid a bunch of money, but I almost feel like that there's something else happening there. I'm actually going to take Jets plus 3.5 right now, just to have it in my back pocket. And if something goes wrong tomorrow, which we got Chargers and Broncos, Russ is hurt, say that he goes down, or if it just continues to look awful and they put up another 10 to 16 points tops, I think you're going to want to have a Jets plus 3.5. It'll probably move down to a 3. It's actually already moving down to a 3 at some books.
I was going to say, again, if you're going to play that, you want to do it now, because I think it will go the other direction. So I think you guys are right.
Yeah, that's definitely a game that you could potentially even middle if the Broncos look awful. I don't know that that's going to get to a 2.5, but I would have that game set at 2.5 as opposed to 3.5. So if I'm going to get to 3.5, then I'll take that right now. Other things jumping off the screen, Chiefs and Niners are next week. Am I seeing that right? That missed me at first. Chiefs and Niners at Niners. Chiefs currently laying 2.5. It looks like is the number. Over under 47.5. That's not a total I'm going to touch, Tasty. To be honest with you, I'd probably lean under right now because it's an under leg. Are you thinking anything on this? Did you do anything ahead of time on this? 2.5? Not sure what the spread was before today.
I don't think it's moved much, if I remember correctly.
It's probably in that range.
It was 1.5, so it actually has gone from 1.5 to 2.5. Yeah,
probably because the Niners didn't handle business today. Okay,
right.
Yeah. I don't mind it for the Chiefs. I mean, I think after losing this week to the Bills, I think there's a decent chance that they come out and I don't know. The 49ers defense can be good, but they've been banged up. So I'll be curious to see what the injury report looks like for them too. So
I will be very curious. I'm not sure if it's my internet or what's going on, but Yanni is
Yanni's
circling spinning thing right now. Yeah. He just said, fuck it, I'm going to go Eagles and Cowboys. I've had some spotty internet. It's like, I don't know what's going on. It's pretty much how I felt as I woke up this morning after having plenty of beers at that Phillies game last night. Tasty. But yeah, Apparently it's
Sounds like
carried
a
over.
great time.
Yeah, right. But Chiefs, I do think it's a bounce back spot. We're running up against the Eagles and Cowboys here. Anything else jumping off the page? If not, then we'll carry ourselves on to Sunday Night Football and keep shopping lines as we peruse them this evening.
Just two things. One, the Vikings won again. I don't give a shit about how it happened.
Shame on me for not bringing that up. Shame on me for not bringing that up. Yeah.
But let's go Eagles. Let's go get it, man.
Let's go Birds. There's going to be plenty of other content. I feel like that we've only been talking for like 10 to 15 minutes and didn't even touch on the bikes. The counter's at 36 minutes right now. So that's just how much happens and how much action's going on. We'll have more podcasts happening for sure. Tasty at NBA Attack. You'll have some NBA stuff coming out. You got your best bet show, which I'm risking going 0-3 after a hot start on the best bet show for this week, but let's see how that one plays out.
Let's go finish strong.
And Yanni, you'll have plenty of articles out. Hopefully I don't go to 0-3. You probably had a better week than me on Tasty's show, but you had plenty of articles on sides, totals, and a lot of DFS and props for this week. We'll have a podcast, the Wednesday night podcast that we do. I'll put that out. I'm trying to get it out Thursday. At times I've been, pretty busy with work. It comes out like late Thursday around like midnight. So check your streams. Yanni, anything else that you'd like to add before we look at the Birds and the Cowboys?
I just wanted to say, because I unfortunately cut out there right when you guys were talking about the Chiefs and Niners. I love the Chiefs in this spot. I'm going to bet them before it gets to 3. I think they win a cover. I love them a lot. So if you believe in the Chiefs and you want to bet them, I would bet them now. I'm betting them now.
Get them before it goes to 3. Nice bounce back spot for the Chiefs and the Niners. Maybe we need to reevaluate what they have going on too. It's just a league right now where, like we said last week, there's a few teams at the top, and I'm starting to cut some more teams off the top where it's like Bills, Chiefs. I trust them unless they're playing each other, right? And then the Eagles, I think I trust them too. We'll see what we get tonight. So pretty successful day overall. Appreciate it, fellas. Let's enjoy this Sunday Night Football game.
Good luck to the Birds.
Thanks.
Fly Eagles fly. All right.